benefit, but only trouble and botheration. What kind of world is this? It seems to be just like a magic lantern show, wherein so many shadows and optical illusions dance magically before my eyes. I feel great attachment and identification with such a world, and thus day after day passes without any purpose whatsoever. When this body drops dead on the ground, what will then remain mine? At that moment, all my sons and dearest loved ones will not be able to give me any happiness. I work hard just like an ass every day, and now I am wondering, for whom am I working so hard? I am still surrounded by so many illusions. I waste every day in useless, insignificant work, and I waste every night controlled by sleep. And in every 24 hours, I never consider that cruel death is always sitting right in front of me. I imagine that I live a very carefree lifestyle, sometimes eating a lot or eating little if I feel like it. Sometimes I see nice things around the town, or sometimes I do not go out at all. Sometimes I wear opulent clothing, or if I'm in the mood, I'll wear something simple. I live so carefree, and I never considered that one day I will have to give up this body. But in actuality, my poor heart is plagued by constant anxieties regarding the maintenance of my body, my house, my wife, my family members, and my social obligations. All these anxieties are pinching me sharply and truly destroying my intelligence. Alas, alas, what a remorseful situation has arisen. I am engrossed with all this trouble, but I never considered that all these things are temporary and subject to perish very soon. After I'm dead and gone, what will remain of all my material opulence? When my body is thrown into the pit at the cremation grounds, it will simply lie there motionless. Then many crows, vultures, ants, and worms will come and playfully sport there. All the stray dogs and jackals will become very much delighted, and in great ecstasy they will make a festival ground out of my body and have a huge feast. Just see, such is the ultimate destination of this material body. And the most amazing thing is that all material opulences, my house, family, and friends, have exactly the same destination. Therefore, I advise those of you who have keen intelligence, please give up all these temporary illusions presented by Maya and search after the means to get pure devotion to Lord Krishna, for this is the only eternal truth. Durlabha manabha janama labhya samsare Krishna bhajino dukha kahi bohoka hare. Durlabha manava janama labhya samsare Krishna bhajino dukha kahi bohoka hare. Samsara samsara kore miche de lokal labana koilo kichugati lo janjal. Kishera samsara echaya baji pai Hate mamata koribrita dina jai Ede ho patana hoile ki roba amar Keho sukanahi dibe putra parivar Gardabe mata amikori parishrama Kalagi etakori naguchilo brahm Dinaja michakaje Nicha nidya base Nahi bhave marana nikate achibose Balomanga kai heri pari chintahina Nahi bhave deho chadibo konadin Deho geho kalatradi chinta avrita Chagajiche hridoye murabuti korehata He nahi bhavi anita esa bhajivana vigata kota kohi bo vaibhav samsa smasane sarire mama podiya rohibe vihangi patanga tai biha koribe kukursiga sabha adit anandita hoye mahotsava koribe amar deho loye Yedehe egate dar anugata samsara vibhavara bandhu janajata ateva maya moha chahadi buddhiman nityatatva krishna bhakti korun sandan Dulabha manava janamalabhiya samsara Krishna nabhajino dukkakahi bokahare samsara samsara korimichede lokal labana koilu kicho gatilo janjal. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Dulabhamanava janamalabhiya samsare Krishna nabhajino dukkakahi bokahare samsara korimichede lokal labana koilo kicho gatilo janjal. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bola Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Radha Nilmadeva Ki Jai. Thank you. This is our story. This is our story. Huh? It's all going to be finished. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're continuing in the 5th chapter. We're going to read two very important verses. Yesterday in the Sunday class we were talking about misconceptions that keep people in the process or in the cycle of birth and death. And Prabhu, you want to close this fan? It's on. So those profound misconceptions keep people in the material world, suffering, birth, old age, disease, and death. So today we're going to study the symptoms of a person who's free from those misconceptions. But in the process, we also hear a listing of the misconceptions that keep people in the material world. So if we look at the chapter 5, verse number 20, it says, Na prihishyet priyam prapya, na prihishyet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya cha priram, no dvijet prapya cha priyam, stira buddhir asammudo, stira buddhir asammudo, Brahmavit Brahmanistita, Brahmavit Brahmanistita, na prihishyet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya cha priyam, stira buddhir asammudo, Brahmavit Brahmanistita, na prarishyet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya cha priyam, no dvijet prapya cha priyam, stira buddhir asammudo, Brahmavit Brahmanistita, na prarishyet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya cha priyam, stira buddhir asammudo, Brahmavit Brahmanistita. Na, never, parishyet, rejoices, priyam, the pleasant, prapya, achieving, na, does not, udvijet, become agitated, prapya, obtaining, cha, also, apriyam, the unpleasant, stira buddhi, self-intelligent, asammudaha, unbewildered, brahmavit, one who knows the Supreme perfectly, brahmani, in the transcendence, stita, situated. So this is a very important verse because it describes a person who is actually liberated in this world from all misconceptions. And it says, translation, a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. So please repeat. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. Purport or commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The symptoms of the self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he or she is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called sthira buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul. Therefore, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the Absolute Truth, namely, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well, without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization, or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So we have a description here of a person who is situated in transcendence. And the number one quality is, the first symptom is that he's not illusioned by the false identification of the body. So a person who is not in transcendence, who has not risen above the level of material attachment, mundane attachment to material things, such a person is illusioned by false identification, by identifying with those material things. Just like one time I witnessed a traffic accident, and one lady had had a new and very nice Toyota Lexus, and somebody in a rainbow-colored VW van ran into her and virtually totaled her car, almost, And her passenger was her mother. It was a relatively older lady, and the VW van hit her on her passenger side fender, right? But really hit her pretty hard, and so it was a very big shock. Fortunately, she and her mother both had seatbelts on. Well, the lady got out of the car and started screaming at the top of her lungs at the driver of the VW van, who happened to be a hippie with really long hair and dreadlocks, and he had a rainbow-colored shirt, and his VW van was also rainbow-colored. And she was just screaming at him, why did you do this? I just bought this car. It's brand new. Why did you run into me? Give me your license. Give me your insurance. And he told her with a smile, I don't have any, dude. So the lady went crazy when he said that. She was already crazy. She went completely crazy. But there were some eyewitnesses, like myself, but one of them said, lady, look at your mother. The mother's in the car, right? And he hit on the side of the mother. He said she didn't care. She was so upset that her brand new car was hit, And then finally she woke up to reality, she went and looked at her mother. Fortunately, her mother was not physically hurt too much, other than being completely shocked. So they had to take her to a hospital anyway, because she was in a state of shock, right? So here was an example of how one becomes illusioned by identifying with temporary material things. She didn't care about herself. She didn't care about her mother. She just cared about the car. And the car, okay, a car is a material thing. She has insurance, even though the other guy didn't have insurance. The insurance company would pay for the car. But she was so upset because of the strong attachment. So the first symptom of a person who is above the, let's say, the attachments of the material world is they are not illusioned by false identifications. Just like this lady identified very strongly with her new Lexus. And because of that, she didn't even care about her mother. Then she woke up after a little while and gave her main attention to her mother. So the first symptom is that such a person is not illusioned by false identification of the body. So the body is the first material thing that we identify with, and then everything in relation to the body, like houses, cars, washing machines, cell phones, relatives, family members, dog, cat, whatever. All these things that are the appurtenances or the accompanying material, let's say trash or junk that we acquire. The family is not like that, but all these other things are junk. And we become illusioned by them. Illusion means we identify with them, including the body, but we have never been the body, nor have we ever been a Lexus or a house or a car or a dog. You say. Now, let's understand that we have never been this body. We receive a body in the womb of our mother. It's pushed out, and it begins to grow. So if we are this body, which body are we? The one that was in the womb of our mother, the one that was pushed out? Like, Prabhu, how much did you weigh when you were pushed out of your mother's womb? 3 kgs. 6 pounds. Okay. How much do you weigh now? 180 pounds, right? So 6 pounds into 180, right? 6 and 8. So you're 30 times bigger. You are 30 times bigger. So which one of the bodies? Were you 29, 28, 16, 10, 6? Which one are you? Right? Each one is different, right? You ever see that? Usually in a house, they'll have, in the kitchen, they'll have a tape measure or some kind of measure on the wall, and as the kid is growing, they keep, marking, red marks or black marks. He used to be, 24 inches, now it's 36 inches, now it's 48 inches. So you see, we're constantly changing the body, and ultimate change is at death, when we change a body that has become basically useless and wasted. And depending on the consciousness we have at the moment of death, we're transferred. If we have material consciousness and have strong material attachments, we come back in some suitable body to maintain those attachments. Just like, let's say you have a wonderful house, and you spend a lot of your time maintaining the house, keeping the garden nice, fixing leaks in the roof, getting granite slabs, replacing what was there before, putting in a solid wood floor, whatever. So, because there's so much preoccupation with the house, if someone dies in that consciousness, they will take birth again in the house, but not necessarily as a human being. They could take birth as an insect. There are plenty of spiders in houses, right? And they have their own home, right? They make their own nest, and they get their own food. Little flies go onto the spider net, and the spider catches the fly and wraps it up in its saliva, which is like a thin type of stringy, sticky substance, and keeps it for a rainy day when it's hungry. You see, so it's got there's a whole other family in your house. There's the spider family. Then sometimes there's the mouse or rat family. There are the bug families. One time someone said, "Do you have any pets?" I said, "Yes." He said, "How many do you have?" I said, "About 18 or 20. He said, "Really? So what kind of pet do you have?" I said, "I have fruit flies." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, fruit flies. In summertime, there's always about 18 fruit flies in the house." That's my pets. So you see, there are all kinds of living entities in the house. And you can't really say it's my house, because you have all these strangers in the house, right? So you see, it's a very, there was this one lady, she hid in the house of somebody for about 3 years, until they finally discovered her. This was in Japan. She was staying in the closet of one man. He was living alone. And but he started noticing after some time that things would be missing from his refrigerator, or things would be misplaced, and he became very, very meticulous, putting things and then making a mental note exactly where the thing was. And then eventually he realized there was someone else in the house, but he couldn't find the lady, So then he put secretly put some cameras in the house, remote viewing cameras. And he did it in a very, very quiet way. And then he was always looking, and he saw the lady coming out after he'd leave. And she was very, very careful. So he finally caught her. After 3 years. 3 years of living in the house. The same house that he was living in, you see? So, how can you say it's my house? There's so many relative things that we think are sort of absolute, and they're not. Everything in the material world is transitory. So the first thing is not illusion by false identification of the body or any extension of the body as far as possessions or family members or whatever. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means that our real identification should be with our soul. Just like you have and I have a smartphone or an iPhone, right? So, if you don't recharge the phone, does it work? No. I mean, it's the same phone, right? But unless you recharge it, it doesn't work. So it needs a source of energy to work. Although the phone is intact and it works perfectly, but if it doesn't have a source of energy, it doesn't work. Just like your car also. If you don't put gasoline or diesel in your car, it doesn't work. So, the body is exactly the same as the cell phone or the car. If there is no source of energy, it doesn't work. What is the source of that energy? It's the soul. And the soul is not a material thing. You cannot create a soul through material combination. If you could, and the scientists just dream that they can, they just pray that they can, right? Because then their whole Darwinian and humanistic philosophy would be valid. That you can conquer over nature simply with reason and logic and science. But they can't do it. They can put a source of energy in a cell phone. They can put a source of energy in a car. They can put a source of energy in a radio or television, but they can't put a source of energy in the body. If they could, like for example, scientists know all the constituents of an egg. An egg is relatively simple. It's just a shell with an egg yolk and some white stuff in it and so forth. So they know what's in the egg. And they have all those chemicals. They have all this. Yeah. So why can't they create an egg? Instead of trying to create a robot or something like that, why don't they create an egg? That would be a major thing. They can't do it. Because the egg is more than just albumin and egg yolk and all these things. There's something extra there. And just like right before a person dies, they can do a chemical analysis of that person to know all the chemicals, elements in the body. They're able to do that. And even the chromosomes now, right? They can map the DNA of a person. But when they die, why can't they supply the missing chemicals or missing elements or missing chromosomes and bring the person back alive? They can't. Even though they know more or less what's there. There's one thing they don't know because they refuse to accept it. That there is a non-material soul, a spiritual particle that's so powerful that it can animate a body for 100 years, sometimes 120 years, with energy. Now, how do we know that? Because there's something called blood fusion. Some miraculous thing happens and blood is rejuvenated when it comes back to the heart. And it's re-energized. And it becomes, a rejuvenating substance again. What is it that happens in the heart? First of all, blood is reproduced. And secondly, it's re-energized. Because when it flows through the body, it loses oxygen and it carries sometimes different contaminants in the body. And it goes through the liver, and those contaminants sometimes are purified or filtered out. This thing, that thing. So many things happen. What re-energizes the blood? When it passes through the heart. And the scientists know that happens. It's the soul. It's just like you plug in your cell phone, right? And you get electricity that recharges the battery. And then it works again. How many times a day do you recharge your cell phone? Once. How many hours does it take? Yeah. What happens when you forget to recharge it? There you go. So some miraculous thing happens in the heart where it recharges the blood on a daily basis, on a minute-by-minute basis. That's what's keeping us alive. We have the type of battery that Tesla would only dream of creating, right? Although they might make the best batteries nowadays, they can't even dream of making a battery like this. It's continually recharging, self-recharging, right? Okay, so that our real identification is that spiritual spark that's called our soul. And that's the real person. Because when the soul leaves the body, what do people do? They either burn the body, bury the body, leave it out in the open to be eaten by vultures and animals or whatever. But they get rid of the body, the same body that they loved and they served for so many years. Right? I asked my wife one day, what are you going to do when I die? She said, I'm going to burn you. Well, what do people do? What the Hindus do? They burn the body. Why? If you love that person so much, you serve them so much, why do you want to get rid of their body? If you thought that person is the body, why would you want to get rid of it? Because there's something missing in the body. That missing thing is the soul. The soul is what animated the body with consciousness. As soon as that body does not respond anymore, they get rid of it. So the real thing that you love in a person is not the body, it's the soul, which is the origin of the consciousness. Okay. This requires some analysis, some you have to figure these things out. Otherwise people get completely bewildered when there's a death. They don't quite understand. And some people say, oh no, don't worry, it's all over. It's like a used car, you just put it in a junkyard, it's finished. No, that's a bunch of nonsense. It's not all over. Otherwise, why do people do the Shrud ceremony? What's the meaning of the Shrud ceremony? It's predicated on the idea that the soul is eternal. It doesn't die when it leaves the body. Therefore, people transfer their collective good works to the departed soul that they love. So that if that person is in a bad situation, like being a cockroach in the house or a spider or something, then they will be benefited by the collective punya of their family members. Otherwise, the whole thing is fantasy. What is fantasy? Is the belief that there's no soul. That is the ultimate fantasy. But yet, there's so many PhDs and great philosophers that are trying to convince us today that there's no soul. Or if there is a soul, it's created at some point of material combination. And then when matter dies, then the soul dies. They're all nonsensical concepts. Completely different than the Vedic Shruti or Vedic knowledge. So, here we have... the next point is, he is therefore joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament, he is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. So this is the next point of a person who is in transcendence. They do not become over excited or joyful when they obtain something good, and they do not lament when they lose something. Or as it says, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakangsati Samaksara Vesabhute Sumad Bhaktim Labhute Param. Bhagavad Gita 18:56, which says 54, which says that a person who is situated in transcendence is not hanker after things, does not lament for things lost, nor hanker for things that he doesn't have. Nasochati nakangsati. Okay, and even further, is not overjoyed when something pleasant is obtained, nor devastated when something that they're attached to is lost. Therefore, he is not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to the body. So therefore, for a person who's not in transcendence, they are affected by lamentation and desire, or hankering. This steadiness of mind is called stira buddhi, or self-intelligence. So the next symptom of a person who's not in transcendence is they lack self-intelligence. That is, intelligence is the discerning faculty, the ability to discern what is right, what is wrong, what is the truth, what is falsity, what is good, what is bad, etc. So a person who is not situated in transcendence cannot differentiate correctly. And we see this all the time. So a person who is not in transcendence will think that the goal of life is material pleasure. Therefore, they work day and night to please the body. But that is a useless activity, because that does not liberate a person from the cycle of birth and death. On the other hand, Rishabhadev says, Nayam deha deho bhajan nirloke kastan kamam arhate vidbujam te tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam sudayet yasmat brahmasucham tvanantam. This is a very important verse. He's speaking to his sons and he's instructing them in what's called Atma Tattva, knowledge of the soul. And he says, Interesting. Verse is not here. Well, he says, my dear sons, Naham deha deho bhajan nirloke. One should not use this body for sense gratification like the hogs and dogs. Rather, one should willfully engage in self-abnegation or austerities in order to achieve self-realization. Otherwise, we live like animals, just pandering to our self-indulgence. But if we engage in austerities, and what kind of austerities? Instead of hearing and chanting nonsensical things, hearing and chanting about Krishna. Instead of eating nonsensical things, accepting only prasadam. Instead of engaging in frivolous activities, we should engage in devotional service. And so forth. Those are austerities. It doesn't necessarily mean living in a cold, dark, dank cave and sleeping on the floor or on a bed of nails. That's not austerity. That is in a sense, mutilation. What he's talking about is, instead of doing nonsense, we engage in Krishna consciousness. That's our austerity. But Krishna consciousness is actually fun. It's actually joyful. So, although it's an austerity, it's an uplifting austerity. It's not a self-destructive austerity. Okay, so then the next point here is he is never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So the next point is that he knows his constitutional position. So therefore someone who is not Krishna, who's not self-realized, they do not know their constitutional position as the eternal servant of Krishna. In other words, they don't know who they are. They cannot stop serving, but instead of serving Krishna, they serve their country, they serve their dog, they serve their family, they serve their employer, they serve the cause of nationalism, and so forth. They serve so many things because you cannot stop serving. But as long as they don't serve Krishna, they're not in their constitutional position. Constitutional position means what you are meant to be and do. What you are meant to be and do. How you are made, how you are made. Your body, your intelligence, or our bodies, our intelligence, are made to serve Krishna. And when we serve other things, we become forlorn and depressed and frustrated and bored. So, okay, so these are some. Now, it continues here. It says, such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. So, here's the question. Where do we find God? Most people think I have to go to the Himalayas, or I have to go, underwater, or I have to, you have yogis that meditate underwater. You have yogis that meditate in caves in the Himalayas. And you have yogis that bury their head in sand. What are they looking for? Looking for God, right? Are they going to find God with their head buried in the sand, or in the cave, or underwater? No. Sobari Muni, he meditated underwater for about 10,000 years. But at one point there was a school of fish that were copulating, and even though he was in deep meditation, he noticed it. And it broke his meditation. After 10,000 years underwater meditating, and they had to scramble to the top of the water, and it came out, and he decided to get married. That's after 10,000 years of meditation, right? So, where do we find God? Well, most people think they'll find him outside. But here it says, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. He finds the Supreme within, not outside. Yeah. It's like this. Once Google develops the chip that you can have put, let's say somewhere in the brain, right? And you receive internet directly. You just close your eyes and you're going page by page on the internet anywhere you want. You can watch movies. So at that point, you see, it's already started. Like, let's say someone has their audio player, right? And they have their earphones on, right? So you see them walking down the street. They're within now, right? It's going on within. Right? Now, wait a minute. Google's going to come up with the chip that you put in the brain, and then you have within you the whole internet. You can go anywhere you want, watch any movie, listen to the news, chat with people. You don't need the handheld anymore. It's the next step. You don't need a handheld. It's right there in the brain. See? So then you're living within. You're living in total virtual reality. Total virtual. Now they have these eyeglasses. Now, what's his name? Zuckerberg is practicing with these eyeglasses of virtual reality eyeglasses. Right? You can see anything you want to see. Right? Just like nowadays, there are more and more articles saying that there's pornography addiction due to people constantly viewing pornography on the internet. And it's become a serious addiction. Maybe 60-80% of men are addicted to it. Yeah. More than 50% of all men that have computers are addicted to it. So, this is a serious thing. But what are they doing? They're internalizing their whole experience. It's called internal virtual reality. But yet, there is real reality internally. You see how everything is made to take us away from finding Krishna. Even internally. They don't want us to find Krishna internally. You can't find him. Krishna explains Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter and 11th chapter, so you can find him externally also. But no, externally they have, the internet and movies and plays and all these things. But now they want to stop you internally also. You see, both ways they want to stop you with these gadgets, these artificial reality gadgets. Huh? Weapons of mass destruction, exactly. Yes.
Do you think it's deliberate that the pornography is distracted?
Yes, yeah.
You don't pay attention to the global events?
Yeah, and you just vote Democrat. That's the whole point. You just vote for people that promise you more distraction. No austerity, no God, no master. Just the internet. And then once they put the chip, it's constant. Even now, they have the phone. People are looking at that phone all day long and go. But pretty soon, you have the chip. You don't need to hold anything anymore. You'll be completely immersed 24 hours a day. It's done on purpose. Because the more you're distracted, the less you think critically about things. The Romans did the same thing. They had the Colosseum. Have you ever been to Rome? No, I've been there. The Colosseum was their internet. It was their movie theater. But it was reality television. They would have gladiators who were trained killers. And every day they would go in and one wouldn't have to die. And the entertainment was seeing that person killed. But they were fighting to the death. Then, people need variety. They don't want to see gladiators die every day. So then they brought the Christians in. And with wild animals like tigers and lions and bears. And they would put the Christians there and the tigers and bears. And they would keep the tigers and bears and lions hungry. Right? So they'd come in and, they want their food. And they would see, these animals tear apart these people. These people were praying and they'd be torn apart and then blood all over the place. And people would this was their entertainment. It kept them entertained. That's why the Roman Empire was defeated eventually. Because they let the quality of their people deteriorate into this type of bestial entertainment. It was entertainment. It was to keep the masses entertained. In other words, dumbing them down. So they don't think critically. The same thing is happening when you have a bunch of, let's say, uninformed people. Then they just vote, for any, or they don't vote. Jai Shri Radha Nilamadava Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. You see how it's developing, So what are we trying to do? We're trying to get people to come and think critically by learning Bhagavad Gita, understanding what's illusion, what's real. And but here we're going over a list of things that are symptomatic of the misconceptions that are embedded in the minds of modern people, so they remain exploitable commodities. Their time, their money, it's all exploited. Right? So a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always entranced, enjoying the pleasure within. You know anybody like that? Anybody at work? No. So Sri Yamunacharya, see, Prabhupada quotes the Alvars here. Sri Yamunacharya, a great devotee in Krishna consciousness, said, Yadavadi mama cheta Krishna padara vinde. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in Him. You see, ever new pleasure in Him. And here it's talking about enjoying the pleasure within, discovering Krishna in your heart as Paramatma, or as Krishna Himself, because if you see Paramatma and you serve Paramatma, then you come eventually to understanding Krishna Himself, who's the source of the Paramatma. Right? Ever new pleasure in Him. Whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought. And my lips curl with distaste. You know, can you just see the picture? Your lip curls with distaste, and you spit at the mere mention of it, or the idea of it. Why does he say that? Because this is what keeps people in the material world, is sex. It's not intoxication. It's not meat eating. It's not gambling, although those are bad. But the main thing is sex pleasure. And that is considered in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita as the ultimate enemy of the living entity. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nityavarinam kama rupena duspurena kama rupena konte duspurena nalena cha. Thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Prabhupada says, it is said in the Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment. Just as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel, in the material world, the center of all activities is sex, and thus this material world is called Maitunya Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of the material existence of a living entity. Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. This is the truth. But most people would argue, no, I don't accept that. That's nonsense. You know, Freud said if you don't have a lot of sex, you get mentally ill. They say, yeah, look at all these, suicide bombers and all these crazy guys that go out and kill people. Go into schools and kill children. They're all sexually frustrated. They write notes, I hate women, I don't have a girlfriend, that's why I'm going to kill 15 people. Well, is that the truth? Huh? What was his example? He was not sexually what? How about Ravana? He had thousands of wives. Is it not? But he was not satisfied. So that's a false argument. It's a completely false argument. Yeah, they might be frustrated because they don't know anything better than that sordid type of so-called pleasure. It's a description of it. Vedas explain that it takes about 2 pounds of food to make 1 drop of blood, and it takes about 40 drops of blood to make one drop of sperm. So a person who's wasting their seed is actually killing themselves, killing their vital energy, because it takes so much food to make 1 drop of blood, 40 drops of blood to make 1 drop of sperm. If they drop the sperm on a regular basis, they are depleted. In fact, there's a theory that is not unfounded, that the cause of AIDS is too frequent ejaculation, where one whole, let's say, ojas, life force, becomes weakened to such a point. Because what is it about yogis? Yogis increase their lifespan. They increase their intelligence. How? By raising the seed or the sperm through the spinal column to the brain, and it as they say, fecundates, or it energizes the brain. Whereas the karmis, they let it drop, and they ejaculate, and they lose that vital energy. Therefore, in spiritual life, we control the sex urge, and we control the loss of sperm. Whereas in material life, it's just the opposite. So you see, everything's the opposite in Kali Yuga. They glorify the loss of it. And the Vedas, they explain the importance of keeping it, because it's the life force. It takes a lot of effort to make even 1 drop of that seed. One time Prabhupada told me, he says, in this Kali Yuga, everything is very bad. They see everything opposite. You know, and it's always stuck in my mind why he said that. But here's one example. They glorify, the materialists glorify the loss of sperm, and the Vedas glorify the retention of it. That's one example. There are many other examples. It's always opposite. In material life, they glorify sense gratification, and the Vedas, they explain the importance of controlled sense gratification, controlled by engaging the senses in Krishna's service, rather than engaging the senses in self-indulgence. So we can go down a list, all these misconceptions that are drilled into the minds of children, just like they put meat in children's formula, baby formula. They put meat extracts in baby formulas, whether it's powder formula or those little jars of, whatever it is, applesauce or whatever. But they put some meat products in it. Why? They want to train the babies to develop that taste, so that when they get older, they'll be naturally attracted to it. So just like the cigarette companies, they put addictive drugs in the tobacco. And they paid big movie stars to smoke on the big screen so that young people would be attracted to smoking. And once they started smoking, they get addicted without knowing it. They didn't know that they put addictive drugs in the tobacco. There's already nicotine, which is addictive, but they would put even more drugs there so that once you get hooked on it, you can't stop. Who did that? The capitalist businessmen. They're trying to change change people's habits and get them addicted to products that they have to keep buying over and over again. Okay, so he says, since I've been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought and my lips curl with distaste. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell. And a materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being a liberated soul. Now, this is an extremely important purport. The 5th chapter, 21st verse. Okay, so we'll continue. Now, okay, the other point is that a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. So, the materialists seek out sex pleasure, and because of that, they become misdirected in their lives. So that's 5th point. Seek sex pleasure as goal of life. Haribol. So you see all these misconceptions? Now once you hear them, you go out into the world every day and you'll see that it's a fact. Right? In fact, we'll make a list of these. You get a little card, right? And every day you go out, you read it first, and then you look for it, and you'll see it everywhere. You'll see these misconceptions everywhere. This is why people are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Now, once we know what these major points are, then we have to learn how to defeat them. When you're discussing with someone, you have to be able